Growing up in the Ashford household meant learning your place early by the time you were 9, if not sooner, and stay relevant in the Menlo, California neighborhood. My younger sister, Vivian, was the undisputed golden child. She had our mother Sharon's striking beauty and our father David's ruthless instinct for networking and social climbing. Vivian wasn't just loved, she was curated, polished, positioned. She was being prepared for a life in high society. I was an afterthought. My name is Olivia. I'm 30 years old. I was the quiet overachiever, the daughter who skipped as much as she could. All the David Ashfords mandated must attend society balls and parties to focus on learning the art of coding. The one who left home at 18 to attend Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge on a partial scholarship, juggling odd jobs just to survive. My parents never saw my independence as strength. To them, it was defiance. An absolute embarrassment. My total disinterest in the Menlo social circuit wasn't just disappointing, it was insulting. While Vivian learned which fork to use at a 7 to 12-course dinner, hold conversations about high society topics, and hobnob with the who's who in the local society pages, I learned how to build something from nothing, specifically about software, apps, and servers. My whole world revolved around artificial intelligence and computers. So when I founded a boutique logistics software company in my mid-20s, they smiled politely and asked when I planned to find a suitable husband. They made my achievement so trivial and quite unnecessary. They never knew, because I never told them, that 5 years later, I quietly sold that company to a major tech conglomerate, Trident Holdings, for an astronomical sum that fully changed my life completely. At 30, I was independently wealthy. And finally, completely free. It was during the final stages of that buyout that I met Brandon Peterson. He was a brilliant engineer, grounded, thoughtful, and refreshingly uninterested in status. He loved me not despite my sharp edges, but because of them. With him, I didn't have to perform. When he proposed in our small apartment, there were no grand gestures. No audience, just us. It was perfect. We spent the next 6 months planning a wedding that reflected exactly who we were: elegant, intimate, and intentionally understated. We booked a rustic ranch in Acres Ranch, hired a farm-to-table caterer, and set the date, September 8th. A full year in advance. We sent out save-the-dates, paid every non-refundable deposit, and for a brief, almost surreal moment my parents seemed happy for me. Then Grant Thornhill proposed to Vivian. Grant was everything my parents had ever dreamed of. Heir to a vast shipping fortune. Impossibly handsome. Impossibly shallow. Vivian's engagement ring was a 5-carat spectacle that caught the light from every angle and demanded attention just as aggressively as she did. The moment it slid onto her finger, my wedding effectively ceased to exist. At first, it was subtle. Family dinners became dominated by discussions of the Thornhill estate, the guest list, the dress fittings. My mother, who had once promised to help me choose floral arrangements, suddenly became too overwhelmed with Vivian's engagement party to return my calls. I told myself it didn't matter. Brandon and I were paying for everything ourselves anyway. But the real shift came 3 months later. We were at Sunday brunch on my parents' terrace when Vivian stood, lightly tapping her mimosa glass with a silver spoon. "Grant and I have finally chosen a date," she announced, her smile dazzling and calculated. "We're having a late summer wedding on September 8th. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the distant hum of lawnmowers from a neighboring estate seemed unnaturally loud. Brandon's hand tightened around mine under the table. I stared at my sister, waiting for the punchline. "Vivian," I said carefully, "that's my wedding day, you know that. We sent out the save-the-dates 5 months ago." She pouted immediately, perfectly, almost theatrically. "I know, Olivia," she said, her voice soft with practiced innocence. "But the Thornhills astrologer reviewed our charts, and it's the only auspicious date for our union this year. And the Menlo Country Club only had that Saturday available." She tilted her head slightly. "You understand, right? Yours is just a small ranch thing. You can move it." I turned to my parents, waiting, hoping for reason to step in. For once, my father cleared his throat, refusing to meet my eyes. "Olivia, be reasonable." My mother didn't even look up as she buttered her croissant. "The Thornhills have international guests flying in. The logistics are extremely complex. Your gathering is lovely, of course, but Vivian's wedding will be a major social event." She finally glanced at me, her expression calm and dismissive. "You can't expect her to compromise." They weren't asking, they were informing me. The hierarchy had spoken. The fallout was immediate and brutal. I refused. I told Vivian she was free to get married whenever she wanted, but Brandon and I were not changing our date. I assumed that would be the end of it, that we would simply have 2 weddings on the same day and that people would have to choose. That was my mistake. I underestimated my parents. 2 weeks later, I was summoned to my father's mahogany-paneled library. My mother sat rigidly on the leather sofa, clutching a cup of Earl Grey like it was something solid in a collapsing world. "We need to discuss this stubborn streak of yours," my father began without preamble. "Vivian is extremely distressed. Grant's mother is already raising concerns about family discord." He leaned forward slightly, his tone sharpening. "We are investing over $200,000 into Vivian's reception. Olivia, we cannot be in 2 places at once." "Then you'll have to choose," I said, my voice eerily calm. A brief silence. Then my mother snapped, all warmth gone. "We already have. We are walking Vivian down the aisle. She needs us. Grant's family expects us to host. If you insist on keeping this date, you will be doing it without your family. No parents, no aunts, no cousins." She folded her hands neatly. "I've already spoken to the extended family. They all agree you're being unreasonable and frankly jealous." It hit me then. This wasn't a disagreement. It was a coordinated attack. My mother had moved first, weaponizing the family gossip network before I even had a chance to respond. By the time I left that room, the narrative had already been written. I was the bitter older sister, the jealous spinster. The problem: Aunt Miriam left me a voicemail so venomous I couldn't finish it. My cousin Bradley texted me 3 times, telling me to grow up and stop embarrassing everyone. And standing there in my father's cold, museum-like office, something inside me finally settled. Not broke. Settled. I had spent my entire life trying to earn a place at a table that was never meant for me. "Okay," I said. My father blinked, caught off guard. "Good, then you'll move the date." "No," I said, standing. "Okay, you've made your choice." I met his eyes, then my mother's. "You don't have to worry about the conflict anymore. You, Mom, and anyone else who received a save the date from me," I paused, letting it land, "are officially uninvited." Silence. "Enjoy the wedding." And just like that, I walked out. No tears, not yet. I didn't make it that far. The moment I got back to our apartment in Brooklyn, I collapsed onto the kitchen floor and finally broke. Brandon was there in seconds, holding me as everything I had held in for years came pouring out. His arms were steady, but I could feel the anger in him, quiet, controlled, but very real. When I could finally breathe again, he pulled back slightly. "We can cancel everything," he said. "The barn, the vendors, everything. We'll go to City Hall, or Vegas, or anywhere you want. Just say the word." For a moment, the idea was tempting. To disappear, to minimize, to make it small so it couldn't be taken from me again. But as the tears dried, something else rose in its place. Not sadness, not even anger, resolve. "No," I said, pushing myself up. Brandon frowned. "No, cancel the barn," I said, my voice steady now. His shoulders tensed slightly. "Okay, but we're not going to City Hall." I crossed the room to the antique writing desk I rarely touched, unlocked the bottom drawer, and pulled out a thick leather-bound portfolio. I placed it in his hands. "Open it." He flipped it open, his brow furrowing as he scanned the document's Italian legal papers, property deeds, architectural photos. "Olivia, what am I looking at?" I leaned against the desk, watching his reaction carefully. "When Trident bought my company, I didn't just invest the money," I said. "I wanted something real, something that was mine." He turned the page and froze. A photograph stared back at him, a sprawling 17th-century stone estate surrounded by cypress trees, rolling olive groves, and golden Tuscan hills. An infinity pool seemed to melt into the horizon. "This," I said softly, "is Villa La Sera Palazzo." I let the moment breathe. "It's a $9 million estate just outside Florence." I met his eyes. "And it's mine. Fully paid, completely private, untouchable." Brandon looked from the documents back to me, then back again. "You own a villa in Italy," he said slowly. "An actual palace." I smiled. "It comes with a consecrated chapel, a commercial kitchen, and enough suites to house 40 people. I stepped closer and took his hands. "We're not canceling our wedding," I said. "We're upgrading it." The plan came together quietly. While Vivian spiraled into a high-society spectacle juggling a 400-person guest list, clashing daily with Grant's overbearing mother over meaningless details, and draining my parents financially, Brandon and I built something extraordinary. We sent out new invitations. Heavy cardstock. Handwritten names, 40 guests. Only the people who truly mattered. Each envelope contained a single line: pack your bags, Florence awaits, flights covered, villas reserved, everything handled. We hired a local Michelin-starred chef, arranged private cars from Rome, kept everything completely off social media. To my family, I had disappeared, defeated, embarrassed, silent. Let them believe it. September 8th arrived like something out of a film, and if I had written what happened next, people would have called it unrealistic. In Menlo Park, a freak early autumn storm, violent, sudden, and completely unpredicted, crashed directly into Vivian's meticulously planned day. I only knew because of Jenny. My cousin Jenny, the only one who had quietly apologized to me. She volunteered to be my inside source. All day, my phone buzzed with her updates. She was hiding in the country club coat check room, sending rapid-fire messages like a war correspondent. According to Jenny, the chaos started early. Within 20 minutes, the outdoor ceremony was destroyed. Custom floral arches gone, imported white orchids reduced to soggy, bruised clumps in the mud. The pristine golf course? A swamp. 400 guests, California's elite, were herded into a cramped backup ballroom that smelled like wet silk, damp wool, and rising panic. Vivian, running on zero sleep and pure adrenaline, reportedly got into a screaming match with Grant's mother over the seating chart. Her custom couture gown dragged through a puddle, staining the hem a murky gray. Grant, still hungover from a bachelor party that had stretched far longer than advertised, kept disappearing to the bathroom, and that was only the beginning. He reeked of stale scotch and breath mints, and when it came time for the vows he broke, Grant stumbled through them, slurring slightly until, for one horrifying half-second, he called Vivian by his ex-girlfriend's name. The room went still. 400 guests. Dead silence. Then the whispers began. From that moment on, the reception became an exercise in damage control. My parents David and Sharon moved through the crowd like crisis managers, their smiles stretched thin and bloodless. They wrote blank checks to keep the evening afloat, paying for extended catering hours, better champagne, anything to pacify a restless, unimpressed guest list. It didn't work. The entire event felt suffocating, expensive, and deeply, painfully artificial. 6 time zones ahead, under the impossibly blue skies of Florence, my day began very differently. Brandon and I woke to the scent of fresh espresso, blooming jasmine, and warm sciaxiata bread drifting through the open windows. There was no rush, no anxiety, just peace. Our 40 guests, our real people, were already scattered across the estate. Some lounged by the infinity pool, others wandered the olive groves, glasses of fresh juice in hand. The villa glowed gold in the morning sun. My college roommate Katrina was doing yoga on the terrace. Justin, my former lead engineer, was enthusiastically butchering the Italian language with the groundskeeper, who nodded politely through it all. There were no schedules, no pressure, no performance, just joy.